Tom Conrad, the Superintendent of Schools, and welcome to the Superintendent Spotlight Show, a half-hour show dedicated to programs and people that do various jobs here in our district. And today's guest is Barbara Levoy, and so Barbara, great to have you here.
Thank you.
And Barbara is our tech coordinator throughout the district, and she has a big job for us. And so she was on the show last year, and we wanted to bring her right back in on the first show of the season to update us on all of the work that's been going on in technology. Before we get to you, Barbara, I just want to tell the viewers that we're filming on the second day of school. And considering that we opened all of our schools yesterday with over 2,500 students coming back, we had a great first day, and we're off to a great start, and I'm excited for another fantastic school year for all of our students and staff. So Barbara, let's start right away with technology equipment. Now, we know that we had an ambitious plan to bring technology into our buildings. And let's start with the high school. What's new at the high school?
Well, we really didn't purchase a whole lot of equipment for the high school this year. What we did is we recycled many of our iPads because we're in a 4-year cycle process. So our outgoing seniors, we repurposed those, wiped those devices, and they were provided to our incoming freshmen. What we did purchase was, we believe, pretty much the end to the classroom equipment for interactive boards. We purchased a new product called ClearTouch, which is actually, it kind of looks like a big 70-inch screen television, but it has the ability to have a laptop attached to it. We can add our Apple TV, we can have a variety of software on there. It's interactive. It's actually more current technology, not better, but it's more current technology than our interactive smart boards, which we've outfitted for most of the high school and for most of the other schools as well. So we're starting to move into, I guess what you could say, the high-tech stuff, the on-the-spot stuff. As a technology director, the word's escaping me, but cutting edge, there we go. We're a little more cutting edge with the interactive board.
So now, with the additional boards that we picked up this year, we're in excellent shape now in terms of the most classrooms having that board now.
Correct. All of our instructional classrooms have a board. We do have boards in some of our special education locations and other unique environments that provide teaching and learning to students and are used by the staff. For example, Scott McGrath received a board. He does not have a traditional classroom per se, but he has a space that really lends itself to teaching and learning. So. And he's actually quite good at using technology in the classroom.
He is, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Sure. And so when you talk about we're recycling the iPads and so forth, we're in a position now where we, now for the second year, every student on the campus has access to an iPad.
Correct. It's pretty exciting. The very first day of school, there was great expectation from the teachers of their students to make sure they had their iPad with them and to be ready on the get-go, on the first day of school, to begin taking notes, to doing research, and so forth. So there was a lot of expectation about the use of that technology being driven, of course, by the kids as well as the staff.
And so when you talk about the teacher's expectation of first day, ready to go, how did you get them in the hands of our incoming freshmen?
Well, this past summer, and what we've done traditionally for the last 3 years, this will be 3 years in a row, is during the freshman cookout, we actually hand out the iPads at that time. It's kind of a nice event. We get to meet the parents as well as the kids. The building principal does a lot of the activities for introducing the freshman class, so we distributed them at that time, and it was a busy couple of hours, but it was pretty successful. I think we provided about 150 iPads that evening, maybe give or take.
And that was, as I remember, it was a Thursday before Labor Day.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
you had the barbecue for the parents and stuff.
Absolutely. It was a nice Labor Day to have that rest.
So we got a lot of them in the students' hands before
Correct.
they even came to first day.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of them have it. We only had maybe 20, 25 iPads, maybe 30 tops that were not in their hands. And that was because students couldn't make it that evening. Some students had sports activities that they were involved in. Some were on vacation or out. But for the most part, we were able to distribute all of the iPads, or as many as the iPads, for the incoming freshmen.
So the high school's in excellent shape moving
High school
forward.
is in excellent shape. We're very excited, to be honest with you, about moving technology integration forward at the high school level, because this will be our third year. We have a technology integration specialist who's fabulous, Lisa Olandella, very involved in the classroom. I believe yesterday or during our teacher days when they were back last week, last week of August, she sent out a spreadsheet to all of the teachers asking them what they wanted to focus on in terms of technology. She shared with me that she was a little nervous about sending that out. She didn't think anyone would fill it in. And she said within 20 minutes it was filled up. And so staff is very excited about learning and using the technology in instruction. And we have a really good person to provide that support. So.
If time permits here today, we'll certainly get into some of the learning that's taking place, and from a student perspective with the technology.
Sure.
And but let's keep moving around the district.
Absolutely.
The middle school, big changes at the middle school.
Huge changes at the middle school. We were able to lease 210 iPads in cases so that we could provide a one-to-one environment for our 8th graders. We'll distribute those on September 14th and 15th. Parents will come to the middle school with hopefully with their child to pick up an iPad, sign off the paperwork, and we'll distribute that for a one-to-one up there. The 6th and 7th graders, we're going to do it a little bit differently. They will not be allowed to take home their iPad at that time. What they'll do is they'll come in the morning to their homeroom, they'll collect their iPad, they'll use it throughout the day, through all of their classes with instruction, and then at the end of the day when they return to homeroom, there will be an education assistant there to collect and properly store the iPad at the end of the day. So the gist of all that is that the middle school will be one-to-one, and they'll be embarking on the same kind of teaching and learning that the high school's been at for 2 years. And we also have a new technology integration specialist at the middle school. Brandy Jackson was the former computer teacher there, who's now become the tech integration specialist to work and support staff and do those kinds of things. So I think Brandy will do a good job, and she's very knowledgeable about technology. So, but it will be her first year as well. So we're all kind of excited. So.
All right, let's move into the world of the elementary schools.
Elementary
and,
schools.
Let's go to the far reaches of Wellfleet.
Far reaches of Wellfleet. We created a technology plan for the K-5 schools. I think it was a year or two ago. And what we did is we had a committee made up of teachers and technology staff, and we had a couple of administrators on there. We sort of sought out what other school districts were doing for the number of iPads required at the K-5 level. We sought out, we had the committee seek out teachers and get their input as to what we should do. So we came up with some ratios as to the number of iPads that we should have per grade level and per population. And once we kind of came up with that figure, our goal this past summer was to meet that figure, and we were actually quite successful. 3 of our 5 districts are at the maximum ratios that we've set up for our K-5 technology plan. 2 of the districts are at the minimum ratio. So we are in a terrific place also in our K-5 schools to provide technology integration into content. And so we're very pleased with that. And a couple of other things that we did, because it's relatively new for the K-5 areas, that we also made sure that we had an iPad for every teaching staff member at that level. We tried to get them their iPads as soon as possible so they had the summer and time to practice. But a really interesting thing is that because we had some existing iPads in the classrooms already at K-5, many of our teachers are comfortable with using the technology already. So now that they have their own device, they can really pinpoint in what's best for learning in their classroom and for their style. So that was really good. We also did, I know you may have a few other questions.
No, go ahead.
We also did, we provided some significant PD that I've received terrific feedback on. We offered a 2-day class for Google Apps. One, we primarily focused on having our K-5 staff there, and the other, we focused on having our secondary educators there. And that was very successful. I had a lot of positive feedback because all of the students in our district now take advantage of Google Apps. They can't email at our K-5 level. We don't allow that. But they can log into the account, store files, store folders, so that as we embark upon our technology adventure, we can begin developing student portfolios that begin in grade K and go all the way to grade 12. So it's kind of amazing if you think back to looking at some of your work way back then. It's pretty amazing how you see a transition and growth.
Oh, sure.
And all that. So the other PD class that we offered that had great reviews was one for the iPad, and that was a mixed level, K to 12. And again, I just heard wonderful results in our survey. The effectiveness of Greg, who is with EdTech Teacher, very well known. He's most known for his coining the phrase app smashing, which is using multiple apps on an iPad. We also had our tech coordinators provide, at the K-5 level, I believe they did 3 workshops, one on the interactive board, one on the smart board, and one on Google Apps. Again, very well received in the district. So we've been really focusing on supporting the teacher in understanding the technology so that they can take that piece of information and bring it into their classroom for teaching and learning. They know their content, so that's...
I mean, that's a critical piece.
Absolutely.
Anybody and everyone moving forward with technology has to have a vigorous professional development program to update and train our teachers in how to use the equipment.
Correct, yeah. So it's actually pretty amazing when you walk into the classrooms and you walk into the buildings and you see the ease at which they use their interactive board, the ease at which they're using the iPad for instructional purposes. And it's important to note that the iPad is not used and should not be used 24/7 from the day a student walks in the classroom. Sure. It's an appropriate tool used for an appropriate instructional purpose. So that's kind of important to know.
No, that's a key piece, right, Bob?
Absolutely.
I mean, we have progressed so rapidly with getting our equipment and so forth. And congratulations to you and your department. And
thank you.
And thanks to the taxpayers who supported many of these initiatives. But it's now all about student learning.
Absolutely.
And with technology available to us, how do we enhance that learning experience, and what do students take from that? Okay. And that's something you're going to be focusing on a great deal this year. Absolutely.
We are going to be very focused on that. We have technology integration specialists in every building now, and that's quite an accomplishment. They're dedicated full-time individuals at our middle and high school level. They are a combination of the technology teacher as well as a technology integration specialist at our K-5 level. So our focus is going to be on evaluating the use of technology, supporting the classroom teacher in integrating technology, and providing workshops and PD, as well as making sure we integrate the technology standards into our content areas. So those are some key focus areas that we'll be looking at as we move through the year, so that we continue to grow and use it appropriately.
And that's, as you're describing this to the viewers, we've had technology teachers in our buildings for many years. And so we're really not necessarily hiring 5 new positions.
Correct.
We're using the technology position and using it in another way, particularly as we learn to integrate this in each and every classroom.
Correct. Actually, what we did at the elementary level is in our technology plan, we identified how many technology classrooms, instructional blocks that we needed. And then we took a look at the teacher of technology, and we saw what the other available blocks would be. So we said, okay, we're going to do this much lab instruction, and now we're going to have you do this much content integration with the staff. So we were able to take, for example, if a staff member had 24 blocks in their schedule for the week, and keep in mind that includes prep and lunch and things like that, they may do something like 11 classroom instructional settings where they have kids in a lab environment. And then they may have another 9 or so blocks where they're strictly working with staff and providing support for staff and teaching them how to use the apps, or answering questions when they have apps, or showing them how they can use a Google Slides presentation as classroom instruction. And with the presenter view in Google Slides now available, have the students actually participate using their iPads. So the teacher can get immediate assessment and feedback on their instruction at the time that they're actually providing instruction. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great.
So it is cool.
It's an exciting time in the classroom,
very.
right? And I know the kids have been very excited to get this technology in their hands.
Absolutely, they're lining up. The 8th graders, I'm hearing, they're all very excited because they'll be getting their iPad soon. Yeah.
I'm sure that the 8th graders will feel empowered when they can take that home at night and use it with their homework in other ways.
Absolutely. Right? So there's no excuse why homework won't be done.
I know another big project you've been working on is online registration.
Absolutely.
And it's a big shift for us in the future and so forth. So why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about what you've been working on?
Okay. So last, I'd say April, March, we moved forward with purchasing a product by SRC, called Registration Gateway. And our goal was to have 2 things accomplished by the time we started school. The first was a registration portal for students entirely new to the district. They had never lived in any of the 4 towns, or in some cases the 6 towns, as we accept students from Truro and Provincetown. Maybe they lived in New York and they've moved here. Their parent can go online and complete all the registration information. The secretary registrar in the building makes an appointment with the parent to collect the appropriate paperwork, a copy of the birth certificate and so forth. And with a click of a button, the student is immediately brought into our X2 student information system. It's gone very well. We've had a few bubbles and a few bumps in the process, but it's been very well received. The secretaries have done a great job transitioning to that product. In fact, Kathy McDonald, our high school secretary, she was like, right after it, she was like, before I could even say, do you have a question, she had already brought in a couple of kids. So folks have taken very well to it. The second piece of the process was an update portal in which parents of existing students could log in and update information. We actually did meet our target date, but too close to call in terms of providing the information to parents. And we did notice a few things that we'd like the vendor to address before we publicly make that announcement or post it on our website. We may want to evaluate that with select parents in the district, maybe grab a few parents and say, try it out, how's it working, and how's it going. And the third and final piece to the registration program is something called the Express portal. And basically that's a portal that's going to be open all year round. a parent could go in and, oh, I changed my cell phone, let me update it, so that you have the correct information, or that kind of short, sweet information that takes us a lot of time in the early part of the year to collect and update within X2. So we've kind of automated that, and we're looking forward to using it.
Yeah, that's a big change for us.
It's a huge change.
And for the
Yeah.
viewers watching, the mounds of paper that are used and have been used for many, many years in this process. We're hoping that this initiative will liberate us from that, and the portal that's opening up, things do change, and phone numbers change, and addresses change, and it's critical for parents to stay current with what's happening in their schools.
Absolutely.
And so now we think that this is going to be a much better approach to it.
Absolutely. It's critical for us to have all the correct information. Heaven forbid something goes on and we need to contact the parent. We want to make sure we have the right phone number.
Sure.
You know, and of course, when there's that no school day because of snow, it's important to have the correct phone numbers as well.
Jeez, let's not go there.
It'll happen. Oh, no,
quite
it'll
yet.
happen.
Although this past weekend was interesting with the weather, to say the least. And I guess the other piece I wanted to really touch base with you is that you are involved in a summer program. And,
yes.
And so why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about that?
Yeah, we actually, it was we called it our 1 to 5 STEAM, STEAM, for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And we had a group of people who began planning this back in probably March, April. I had folks like Charlie and Corinne and a few other teachers, along with Patsy and Maggie Brown, Patsy Marchant, Maggie Brown. We all kind of sat around and said we wanted to offer this STEAM workshop or a session during the summer so that we could complement the middle school's program, build interest in science, technology, and those kinds of content areas. So they put in a lot of hours, those folks put in a lot of hours to get the program off and running. So we held 3 sessions, 3 weeks this summer, 4 days from 9 to noon. We had Maggie Brown and I believe Jordan Doucette at Eastham Elementary School. We had Patsy Marchant and Sarah Moen. Maybe I have Sarah and Jordan mixed up. At Eddie Elementary School. We probably had, on average, between 30 and 50 kids in any given week between the 2 schools.
Wow, 30
yeah,
to 50
you know,
kids.
it was quite successful. We hope to actually present that information, do a presentation at Joint School Committee. We have some great film and some video and pictures of what took place. But it was really exciting when you walked in and you actually saw the kids using technology, not using technology. They did this really cool thing in Eddie about building a bridge, and they used like popsicle sticks and things like that. And what they did is they looked to see how many water bottles it would take before the bridge broke. So it's a lot about science, it's a lot about math, it's a lot about design in terms of calculating how much weight your bridge can handle in terms of that technology. So there were some really cool things. I actually went over there once over at Eastham, and Maggie was showing me a program, an app called Cargo Bridge, and I couldn't quite get the bridge to work, or you know, I wasn't as successful as the students in the popsicle sticks. And I said, Maggie, I have to give this back to you, or else I could be here all day trying to build a bridge. So it was very engaging. The kids were very engaged in the whole process. We've heard wonderful things. There is a blog, a Weebly set up, with a few comments and pictures, of course, that Maggie Brown set up for Eastham Elementary School. So I think it went very successful. We learned a few things. We learned that we'll start a little bit earlier. We had a lot of people join after the registration closed because they heard about it. All in all, it was very positive, very engaging, wonderful experience that really focused on content.
And relative to who was there, it was, of course, many of our students
Yeah.
in the elementaries and so forth. Were people from outside the district involved?
You know, we didn't really open it up to outside the district students. I think we did accept 1 or 2 students because parents heard about it and they wanted their child to be involved. For the most part, we focused on our community within the 4 schools. We actually had Eddie as one location, and we drew students from, of course, Brewster and Orleans that attended the Eddie program. Then we had Eastham as our second building location, and we drew students from Orleans, Eastham, and Wellfleet to that program. We also provided some scholarships so that we could make sure that we provided students the opportunity that might not have been able to
Because there was a
afford
lab
that.
fee involved in
Yeah,
this.
there was a lab fee.
Yeah.
Involved in that process. So we did do that. Next year, I think our focus might be on having the program at Orleans Elementary School, which is a very centralized location to allow all of the communities to participate. But our focus is really on the 5 schools and having students from our district. As we move forward and get more experience and determine where the process goes and how successful we'll continue to be, will determine whether or not we open it up.
Sure. And just for the viewers to understand, this was self-funded. This wasn't any
Correct.
taxpayer dollars used in this
Correct.
process and things like that. But, you know, it sounds like you're planning year 2 in this.
We're definitely planning year
And,
2, and we're very excited. To be honest with you, you know,
Sure.
we talked with some PTAs. We'll talk with some more. We'll talk with some other folks. We'll get an earlier start on building our program.
And this dovetails with the middle school initiative.
Correct.
I mean,
Right.
we have a program there as well.
Correct. Yeah. We hope that our 1 to 5 and our middle school also flows into our high school learning space, which we're slowly but surely developing that. We have a new interactive board in there. We've put a small monitor screen up there that will have an Apple TV. We do have a 3D printer that's coming. I'll probably have that middle of September sometime. So we're building this whole process for STEAM and STEM technology to not just be a 1 grade level event.
Right.
We want it to be a grades 1 to grade 12 process.
Well, of course, there's so much focus on science today in our schools, and we have the challenge of growing our science curriculums in the future, and this is really at the heart of it.
Yeah, it's very important. Everything that you and I do today, everything from the clothes we wear to the food we eat to the technology we used is driven by science, engineering, math, technology, and we need to make sure that we continue to use those kinds of things. I certainly want to be able to eat breakfast every morning and lunch and dinner. So everything involves that technology, that content area.
Yeah. We've got just a minute or 2 left. Challenges going forward?
I think our biggest challenge will of course be content integration. Making sure that teachers have the support that they need without overwhelming them. There's a lot that takes place during their day, and we want to make sure that we support them and that they can easily transition the technology. We don't want this to be a chore on their plate, another chore. We want it to be a seamless process that flows nicely with what they're already doing. So I think that's probably one of our biggest challenges. I think our next really big challenge, and I talk to you about this all the time, is of course supporting the technology.
Sure.
We have quite a bit in our district. 'Close to, I would have to say, close to 2,300, 22,000 iPads, a lot of computers, switches, servers, all that kind of stuff that goes with it. So that's a huge challenge as well.
Yeah. I think
So-
our viewers can appreciate that with their laptops and home computers occasionally
Sure.
having issues that this is going to be a big task for us, but
absolutely.
we're up to the
Absolutely,
up to
I've
it.
got a great staff.
That's great.
So
Barbara, I want to thank you. I mean, this
Okay.
is a 12-month. Can't go fast enough in terms of getting everything prepared and staying on top of. And we can be proud of where we're moving the district. And although challenges are in front of us, we will overcome them, I'm sure.
thank you.
So
Thank you for having me.
So thank you for coming on
Okay.
tonight, and I'm sure we'll probably invite you one more time in the school year to
Oh, no,
update
no,
your
I've done my
progress. And to our viewers, I want to thank you for watching the first show of the season, and I hope in some small way you have a better understanding of what's taking place in our public schools. Thank you, and good night.